Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Hello, and welcome to this exclusive video interview series, Through the People Lens, Reimagining Workforce and Talent, an exclusive video interview series brought to you by ETHR EMEA and PeopleStrong. I'm Yasmin, editor for ETHR EMEA, and it is a pleasure to welcome you all today. Through this series, we will spotlight leading CHROs from top organizations across the Middle East region. These interviews will delve into how forward-thinking HR leaders are pioneering futuristic strategies to build a resilient, agile, and future-ready workforce. Each interview will explore how CHROs are transforming talent management and aligning their workforce with the ever-evolving world of work. We will host 10 in-depth interviews with key CHROs, each providing valuable insights into innovative HR practices, cutting-edge technologies, and the future of talent. These interviews will not only address current trends, but also share unique actionable strategies to help organizations thrive in the age of automation, AI, and digital transformation. And to further dive into these insights today, I have the pleasure of hosting Amin Halawani, who's Director, Head of HR for Global Healthcare Company, and Mrigank Tripathi, who's President, Growth PeopleStrong. Welcome, leaders. It is such a pleasure to have you on board with us today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
It's
you.
really a pleasure to
Absolutely.
meet you.
It's our pleasure. Yeah, it's our pleasure as well, Amin. So before we officially start the conversation and deep dive into some very interesting questions, I'd like to tell you about the theme of today's interview, which is what does it take to build a skills-based organization? And I would also like to introduce our leaders for today's episode. So Amin is a business and HR strategist with rich experience in HR transformation, building workforce and organizational capabilities, organizational efficiencies, HR systems, employee value proposition, and organizational culture and change. His main areas of expertise are HR counseling and partnering through developing tailored HR solutions and plans based on the assessment of the business and workforce maturity and effectiveness, workforce capabilities development, compensation and benefits, and retention strategies. In the past, he has worked for organizations such as Sierra Group, STC, Al-Safi Danone, and many more. And Mrigank is the strategy consultant turned digital entrepreneur turned growth leader. He's a core member of the HCM business, leading growth and expansion globally for PeopleStrong. An MBA from INSEAD, Mrigank is a builder at heart, a serial entrepreneur. He has channeled his energies towards building companies, the latest being acquired and part of the PeopleStrong product suite. So once again, a very, very big thank you to both our leaders today. I'm looking forward to learning a lot from you. And let's deep dive right into the first question. And Amin, I'd like to come to you first. Let's start with the health and beauty care as a domain for you. It is going through major changes as we speak. So according to you, what are some of the factors influencing people and talent management in KSA? And do tell us a little bit about global healthcare and your vision for managing talent in the organization.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for hosting me. First of all, for the first part of that question is that wellness and beauty are growing categories within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, giving the total addressable market growth rate. And also there is a growing segment in the consumer within this industry. In fact, Saudi consumers are top spenders in beauty within the Middle East. So this is actually creating a demand for skilled workers and skilled professionals within the domain, and it is paying more. Companies are paying more in careful attention to acquiring top professionals to meet these demands, customer demands in the beauty and wellness sector. Also, in the long run, more and more professionals will in terms of talent pipeline, will increase. So this means companies actually will also pay closer attention in terms of developing, basically reskilling or upskilling the talent, their talent pool, to increase basically the ratio and margin of talents within their organizations to meet the customer needs.
Thank you. Thank you for setting the context so well about how the industry is looking at talent, especially in KSA, with the growth that in the industry, especially the beauty, health, wellness industry is facing, and how you're looking at aligning your organizational vision and mission with the competencies that you create so that nobody is a failure and everybody is on day one, they are ready to perform. I think that's a very interesting outlook to how you look at talent. So thanks for sharing that, Amin. Mrigank, I'd love to hear you next about you've worked immensely with different industries and retail being an important industry as well. Given the unique challenges in retail, what are some of the biggest obstacles, according to you, when it comes to moving to a skill-based approach? And how can organizations overcome these, ensuring compliance and quality?
Firstly, thanks again for having us over here. Truly appreciate that. And I think Amin has really set the base very well in terms of, what all can it actually do and what should actually happen. But you're right, it is a very tough place, right? And a lot of companies struggle immensely to even move from a job-based organization to a skill-based organization. Earlier the job descriptions used to be long and lengthy, saying this should do this and should do that and stuff. Now it is becoming much more objective, or at least companies are trying to move towards that, where they're saying, I want to be able to measure you against a set of skills or competencies for a specific grade, and then be able to move along that. But it's not easy to move this from the first one, which is a job-based, to a completely skill-based organization. So the first big activity that needs to happen is, how do you actually develop a skill framework? Companies like GHC have already got some sort of a framework from what I heard, but a lot of companies don't actually have it. They have it loosely somewhere there. They will think that this is the type of skill that is required for a specific job. But you have, let's say, 100 job roles. You need to be able to list down for each one of them at the various levels what exactly is the skill and competency that's required. And that's not an easy task to do. As you can well imagine, to be able to very clearly identify that a salesperson who joins should be able to do this, but a salesperson who needs to move to a sales manager should then be able to do increase that, right? And that typically in a lot of environments has been a consulting job. So you will bring in a consultant and stuff, and you'll say, please develop this whole thing for us. We're challenging that notion now, and frankly, technology is helping us by challenging that notion, because we believe that artificial intelligence and LLMs can actually help bring the context in already. So you already have a base to work on. And then what the activity that used to take something like 2 to 3 months, maybe even longer, can now be crunched down to 15 to 20 days. And that's something that we do, right? So that's the first step. How do you build the skill framework? Whatever route you apply, you do need to have that framework. The second thing is, you need to have a technology which is then seamless and connects everything together. So right from recruitment to learning to performance to career and succession to organization development and to compensation, how do you link everything on the basis of skills? And that's what we've also been doing when we've brought together a talent framework, which has been so well accepted in the overall GCC market, and especially in Saudi Arabia as well. Wherein, imagine a sales professional joining as a sales executive. Obviously, the person should now move to a sales director role. That's let's say the career path. What are the skills that are missing for this person at this stage? How can the learning system kick in automatically and say, start these skill development activities? Can the performance system start and say, are you developing these skills? So have those regular check-ins, basis which they make their way into the overall career pool and are then searchable and are then viewable by the management to say, do this, don't do that. This guy's good for a promotion, not good for a promotion, and move on from there. So you need to have a bit of a glue to be able to have that entire skill framework really working, because one is setup, second is application of that, third is managing it, right? How do you even manage it? Now, skills will keep on changing. New skills are required for different types of jobs. How do you keep it all updated? So systems are now, we're developing systems wherein the skills will automatically keep on getting updated, and recommendations will go, you should add this skill to this type of a job, and so on and so forth. So all of that is required. I mean, I don't think that the systems are, or even companies have gotten to a very, very evolved state. But yes, steps are now being taken, and we're leading that path with some global implementations as well as implementations in the market to be able to help companies manage their entire talent, because really the war is going to be on talent. And if you're not able to sort of manage them, there's going to be a bit of a problem. So we're focusing much more on that. Yeah. And skill framework, application, management, and updation, all of that is required to be able to become a skill organization.
So do you think the in this industry specifically, there's still a long way to go and organizations are struggling to move to this approach, or are we getting?
Yeah, that's a good point. I'll tell you what I see happening. In the retail industry, there are two types of frameworks that are being applied.
Yeah.
There's a job role, which is at the front line, because over there you really just want somebody who can come in, service the customer. You don't want to, focus too much on the skill. And they're also a very transient environment. They will come and the churn over there will be high, or the attrition will be high. But when you look at the senior management or the white collar workforce, talent is coming in. So over there, you need to have a completely skill-based organization wherein you really need to understand this person is good for this type of a job, this person is not that great, and brand manager should be this person, branch manager should be this person, and so on and so forth. So I think to get to the front line is still a bit of a time away. But the white collar workforce, 100%, companies are moving towards that and making sure that they can actually retain it. And the front line, they're leading from the learning space. How do I keep on upskilling them? How do I make them better for the customer? What is my performance coming back from there? We're right now in the process of actually integrating our performance management system with the POS, but directly from the POS. So how can a system of record tell me the performance of a specific person, basis which learning can be provided to that specific person or that group? So, things are happening, but I don't think it's at the same level as the white collar workforce.
Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing that, Mrigank. I think you again set the tone very nicely about how critical it is to, create that skills framework, use technology as a platform so that you're moving towards the way the jobs are changing. They're no longer about jobs, it's about the kind of skills that you need to do a particular job. So thanks for setting that tone. I think you heard how Mrigank spoke about the importance of moving to a skills-based approach and all. So according to you, why are now organizations thinking differently about skills? And how is this becoming more relevant in the backdrop of Saudization and economic diversification?
Yeah. So first of all, actually, Mrigank is spot on in terms of skill and competency framework, the importance of to have a competency framework within organizations. To get back to that question, in terms of the perception of people, specifically leadership within the organization, in organization, perception about the skills and how they are thinking differently, is that purely relies upon the customer needs and the customer perception about the products and services, and the perception about quality and the perception about innovation. Perception is a reality. And in terms of meeting those needs, customer needs, organization actually are paying close attention to the processes, to the core capabilities, to the people. If you go to the process, you still need competencies. You need people who are competent to drive those processes, technologies as well.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think, as you said, with the kingdom's focus on, economic diversification and building internal talent, I think having this kind of a skills framework and a skills-based approach is going to go a long way in organizations, not just in the retail or healthcare industry, but all industries in that case. So thanks for sharing that. Mrigank, you already told us about how critical it is for organizations to have a skill-based approach and how they can build a framework to do that. So according to you, what should be considering the unique demands of the healthcare industry, what strategies are going to be essential for developing a workforce that prioritizes specific skills over our traditional roles?
Look, I think from a healthcare perspective, of course, firstly, we need to identify which are the roles where skills are going to be very, very critical. Because skills also provide the most fundamental of elements, which is fungibility. If, let's say, and I'll just take a simple example, if somebody's in sales, they already have certain skills which can go for marketing and vice versa. So from an overall successful implementation of a skills framework, you need to know exactly, firstly, what are the roles that you want to have, go after that, which are fungible, and then do some deep research around that, and then keep that updated. The updation mechanism is something which most people miss out on. And so I've been to companies where they've had skills for the past 4 years, but those skills are now outdated because the jobs have completely changed and companies have not updated the skills framework. So they're still trying to hire on the basis of skills which were 4 years 4 years ago, but not really relevant today. So I think that is a very, very critical element, that how do you really get your skills updated and making sure that they stay that way. Like I said, technology can help a bit over there, but it does require, management to be able to think through and do that. The other very important element over here is, identifying your most critical roles, or the growth driver roles, as I like to call them, inside an organization. Like, for example, let's say in absolute pharma industry, and I'll take not necessarily healthcare, but pharma industry, you have, and we're, by the way, working with a large pharma company to be able to drive their entire talent approach. What we realize is they've got molecules that they're developing. Now, molecules don't get developed in a day, 2 days, a month, 2 months. It could take maybe 4 years, 5 years. So how do you manage talent for that long a time? On what parameters is stuff that they need to worry about. At the same time, they also have people who are going to be visiting doctors on a daily basis, and they need to keep on developing on a monthly basis. So how do you have a framework which can encompass long-term strategy as well as short-term requirements, and be able to put this all together towards the business objective, is something that you need to have from a technology standpoint. Once you have these 3 frameworks, 3 things ready, one is what's really needed, what are your sticky jobs, and what are the jobs that you really need to look at, the technology that can support long-term as well as short-term vision, and what is required, or the measurement KPI metrics to be able to measure both the short-term as well as long-term. You can bring them together into a very well-structured, skill-based organization. So I think that's really what's needed to develop it, even in the healthcare space. I won't necessarily go into specific job roles, because I'm sure each company will define them differently, but yeah, that's really what's needed.
I think relevance is the key word here, right? To ensure each skill that you have, it remains relevant with the changing times. That's where updation will play a very critical role. And all industries must focus on that. So Mrigank, thank you for sharing that. I mean, you spoke a little bit about your frontline employees already, and you said that how, specific skills are required, be it a pharmacist role or other roles. If you could tell me, how do you balance traditional experience-based roles with a new focus on specific skills and competencies for such a workforce? How have you done this in your organization?
First, what we do is that we sit with the key stakeholder, key subject matter experts within the departments and functions, and we constantly review the competencies within each role. So in attempt to create a job profile. What does it mean is that each job will have a set of competencies, technical and core. But each competency will have a different expectation. For example, proficiency levels and behavioral indicator for each proficiency level for each competency against that particular role will different from a role to another. For example, a pharmacist, core competency, like for example, collaboration, customer focus, change, and retail expertise and awareness. These are core, right? But in terms of the core, expectation for a pharmacist might be different than an operation director. They all share the same competencies, but the expectation proficiency level is different. So how can our frontliners basically enjoy and entertain these competencies? Is that these competencies also align 100% with the competitive edge and competitive advantages of the company.
Interesting. Expectation, I think, from the kind of role and the skills that are required is very, very important, as you very rightly said. And how do you translate that into the way the roles are evolving, and what roles require at what level and what proficiency? Very important to find that out. A follow-up question, I mean, I think I'll ask you before I move on to Mrigank again. While ensuring a balance between traditional and new skills is important, how are you also ensuring that skill development remains aligned with your organizational goals and the industry demands? And in a global context also, how do you ensure that your workforce skills are relevant to support your growth, your innovation, and your other objectives?
Basically, what we do, and also an advice to other, L&D professional, talent management professionals, also HR heads, is that to understand the organization's ins and out in terms of operating model, in terms of processes, in terms of procedures, in terms of the overarching strategies. These ways you can understand also the benchmark and future trends when it comes to technology, when it comes to also customer expectation, as I mentioned before. This way, when we pay closer attention to these trends and these main important, elements and fundamentals, we can translate the competency required for the entire organization. Then we go with the competency selection and mapping against each job in each role.
That's important. Great. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's very, very critical for organizations to look inwards first and then look outwards as to what the changes happening globally and what skills are coming, so that you also keep upgrading. And I think Mrigank had also said that there's a need of updation all the time. So very, very critical. Mrigank, coming back to you, and you spoke about how technology can play a very critical role when we are moving to a skills-based organization. So my question to you is, according to you, how is technology shaping skill-based talent management strategies today, and how can organizations go about using technology for the best time?
No, it's an important question. Thanks for that. Given my various interactions with various CHROs and various organizations, the one thing that I've realized is that almost every company looks at all talent management functions in silos. They will say there's a recruitment head, there's a learning head, there is somebody who looks at performance, there is somebody who looks at compensation, there's somebody who looks at OD. But all of them are different functions. There is nothing that is underlying or connecting each one of them, right? And that, to my mind, because talent, you don't just recruit talent, you also upskill the talent. You also make sure that the talent is performing. You also make sure that succession planning and career planning for that talent is done. And you also make sure that compensation is happening correctly for that talent. It's all a seamless flow. So the biggest element that I think technology is now moving towards, or at least we're definitely moving towards, not moving towards, we are there, is the connecting element for all of this. Again, that's skills and competencies. Basis skills, I will hire. Basis skills or basis shortage of skills, I will give you a learning path. Basis your skills and what is required for you to grow, I will measure your performance. Basis that, you will have a career growth. Basis that, you will also make your way into a succession plan. Basis that, your compensation, basis how well you're doing in all of this, your compensation will get decided, right? So I think that's the most fundamental element of moving towards a skill-based organization and becoming a truly skill-based organization. I've till date found about 4 companies that are now really willing to move down to the entire path. I don't blame them, frankly. I don't blame companies. It's very difficult for them to move from a traditional organization of saying, I've got recruitment, I've got learning, I've got performance, I've got this, saying, no, I've got everything, but everything's now going to be linked together. It's a difficult task. But what we've done is, of course, these 4 companies are now more evolved. A lot of companies just start with, I'll start with performance, I'll start with learning, I'll start with succession planning, I'll start with recruitment, one of these things, and then, everything else flows. You do need to have a bedrock for that. So that's fine, perfectly fine. You can start with any one of them. The second element that I think, apart from this one sticky element, like the skills and competency framework or the integrated talent management framework, is the utilization or the acceptance of artificial intelligence. And when I say artificial intelligence, I'm not even talking about just pure AI being embedded. I'm talking about LLMs. Because earlier there was artificial intelligence, then there's machine learning, artificial intelligence, co-pilots that came in. And now we're talking of agents coming in. So you can actually utilize these agents to start doing a lot of the menial jobs, not the menial, but the time-taking and not so productive jobs that companies used to do. I mean, for example, we're right now implementing a recruitment support agent for companies. A company puts up a job role and they get thousands of CVs back, right? Who's going to go through those thousands of CVs? Nobody does. You take only 100 of them and you decide amongst those 100. This agent will actually go through all of them, give them an assessment, figure out what is right, what is wrong, figure out who should be kept, who should be left, and then bring out of all those thousands of CVs, get you the top 100. That's what companies want. And that's where, like somebody said, I don't want artificial intelligence to be creating better things for me. I want artificial intelligence to be doing the dumber jobs so that I can create something better. And that's really the way that we're focusing on things, right? So we're pushing artificial intelligence as well. But yeah, I think 2 things. Number one, the framework. Start thinking in a much more cohesive manner, which says everything is linked together. You don't have to go and do a big bang. You can start with small things and keep on stitching things together. And that's something that we provide. And the second is utilize, thinking about it from that perspective. What are the number of jobs that can be, just removed or made more simpler using artificial intelligence? You don't have to again go the big route today.
Yeah.
You will go there, but not today.
Yeah, I think that's a great approach to think of if you have to start with becoming a skills-based organization, and how can you use technology and build the framework first, and then look at how technology can take care of the repetitive, mundane tasks and help work better on what you already do. Also, Mrigank, a follow-up to that would be, how would you advise a CHRO on taking on an HR tech implementation project? What approach should that be followed according to you? What's the best way to go about it? Especially in the retail health industry, I'll ask.
Look, I think my recommendation, and I'll take a bit of an adage over here. When you go into a war, you don't go in with a blunt sword. You sharpen your sword before you go into the war, right? So technology and implementation is a much later stage thing. The first step is, what is the objective that you want to meet? The second step is, have you got complete internal buy-in for the objective that you want to meet? The third step is, are you ready and sure about the processes? If you're not, work with the partner to make sure that everything sort of aligns. The fourth step is evaluating the technology and saying, no, this is the best one, because now I know what my objective is. I've got internal alignment. I know what the processes that I want to do. Now I want a technology that can actually service this. And you might find technologies which can do that and more, or maybe also products which are not able to do all of that. That's fine. As long as a lot of companies I've seen just go in and say headlong and say, oh, this is a great technology. Why? Because it looks great and it's got all these very cool features. But the reality is, implementation, after implementation, you have 30% of all those features getting used. Is your state of readiness that much? Maybe not. So be cognizant of the shortcomings, and be also very cognizant of your own growth path, of what do you really want from that technology. Then get into implementation, saying, okay, now I've selected, now I will get into implementation. The one thing that I will say for every single CHRO who cares to listen is that please don't buy the shiny thing. Buy the people who are actually holding that shiny thing or that thing, because they're the ones who will remain. That shiny thing will catch rust at some particular point in time, but you still will need somebody to shine it up again and deliver that approach again to you. So I think the partner should be available, should be responsive, should be diligent, should have good credibility, and should have technology which has lasted you for the past 10, 15 years, and be able to commit to the region as well as to yourselves, to be able to move forward. So that's the way that I would think about it.
Great. I think that's a great way to look at it. I think we do get blinded by the large amount of technology and the new tools that are coming out every day, but that's the best way to choose a partner wisely who's there to support you through this thing. While the technology can be upgraded, the people that work behind it are going to be very critical in this journey. So that's a great advice. Thanks, Mrigank. I mean, coming back to you, and we're talking about technology, right? So how do you see the future of talent development, especially in your industry, changing with advancements in AI and retail technology? And what skills do you think will become very, very critical in the coming few years?
Well, people actually will become 100% data driven. So now people are performance driven. They are driven by their leadership as well as their peers, the environment, culture. But with the technology in the future, people will be definitely 100% also driven by data. So also the technology infrastructure in the future will be an enabler for decision making. This means skills and abilities will be around the technology in how to efficiently use these technologies.
Yeah, I think that's a great approach. When you know the technology is becoming so pervasive and so critical for organizations to help people upskill themselves in these technologies, so that some tasks can be given away to the technology and they can focus on becoming better at the key aspects and key skills that are needed for their roles. Mrigank, I'd like to ask you a question associated to this as well. How is AI and automation influencing upskilling and reskilling strategies today, especially for frontline roles? And what approaches, according to you, are most effective in adapting to the rapidly evolving skills that are evolving in this industry?
No, I think it's a very important point. Again, I'll come back to the whole skills framework side of things. You know,
Yeah.
as long as we know that what are the skills that are deficient in a person, we will be able to train them. But I'll take it one step further. I mean, there is an entire possibility of an AI agent, for example, keeping a personalized view on every single individual and saying, hey, as an individual, I've seen that your sales are not that much. We see that there is walk-ins that are happening, which is happening through the walk-in data, but your post details show that you're not actually able to close. That means that I need to give you uh, courses on closure, on objection handling, on how to manage a customer when they're actually coming in, or active listening, and so on and so forth. Now, all of that can be done through AI. Are we there yet? No, we're not, because this requires data from multiple systems to come together, right? It needs data of walk-ins, it needs data of post data happening, it needs some amount of video data coming into the feed, maybe some audio data as well. So we're a bit far away from there, but at least the starting point of that can definitely be done. Your frontline staff can be looked at from a skill-based system, saying, oh, you know, this cohort of people or these people are all below par as far as their performance goes on the sales of this specific product. So let us give them this sort of a training. And your L&D manager can then be assisted, or at least a whole host of rather than the L&D manager going through and saying, who all do I need to do what for, or saying, I'm just going to do a sales training, spray and pray type of an approach. It can give you personalized cohorts saying, these 50 people, we're going to do this. These 100 people, we're going to do this. These 200 people, we're going to do this. That's the approach that I think can happen and is happening now already, basis the whole skills and competency framework, to be able to say what's really needed to move the needle.
Yeah.
Because upskilling and reskilling is something that should ideally be moving the needle. If you skill somebody to be able to sell better, your needle is going to move. And that's really what we're talking about here.
So I think if the goal is very evident for every organization. They have to move up that needle when it comes to upskilling and reskilling. They know that the skills are evolving. They know that jobs are changing. So if that needs to be taken care of very critically, and then AI, automation, these are going to be your key catalysts of bringing this change about, I feel. So thanks for sharing that. It's time for a final question for this episode today, and it's a quick rapid fire. I mean, I'd like to start with you here now. So if you could start, stop, and continue doing one thing as a CHRO, what would those be?
That's a really great question. Thank you for asking that. So the first thing I would start is building innovation capabilities, integrating AI in the HR core performance, continuing understanding people, improving them, and continuously in an attempt to improve the organizational competitive edge and competitive advantage. And we have to also advise other professionals to stop thinking about not investing. So invest is very important. What I would continue is that I would continue understanding people, the evolving needs of people. I would continue, building the culture. As we say that, I don't know if it's Peter Drucker who said that, because some people say that it's not him, but I like the idea that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So no matter how beautiful your strategy is, no matter how sophisticated your strategy is, and no matter how capable your people are executing the strategy, but if you don't have the buy-in within the leadership, within maybe the CEO, all of that strategy will not prevail and will not be achieved. So culture is very important. What does it mean? That strategy will have an implication to people, will have a cultural implication. For example, the values. We still need to pay a closer and meaningful attention to value. Value is not like we just design and write the values, pick them once a year, and that's it. It's about communicating them, advancing them, translating actually these values into competencies, and monitoring these values through competencies,
Absolutely.
through performance.
Yeah.
So very important.
Great.
Stakeholder management, also increasing the talent pool. I would continue increasing the talent pool through talent acquisition, definitely through AI, through systems, and increasing talent pool through developing them within the organization.
Thank you. I think that I couldn't have had better thoughts to end this conversation with, coming from Amin and Mrigank, the both of you. So beautifully said that at the end of the day, we are dealing with people. We have to ensure that we align our people's goals with our business goals. We are moving towards a skills-based organization. We have to evolve accordingly. We see how technology can help us bring about this change and move forward and prepare our workforce for a future that's going to be uncertain, but yet we can prepare by knowing what are the skills that are needed for there, what kind of proficiency levels are needed, what technologies can we upgrade ourselves in, and then build everything around our business goals and our people goals. I think that's the way forward. So on that note, thank you so much, Amin and Mrigank. It was such a wonderful conversation, such valuable insights I got to know from the both of you. It is clear that the world of work is evolving rapidly, but hearing from experts like you gives us a much deeper understanding of how we can build a skill-based organization and a more human organization. So on that note, once again, thank you to all our wonderful guests and also to our viewers for tuning into this episode of Through the People Lens, Reimagining Workforce and Talent with HRWorld, EMEA, and PeopleStrong. Stay tuned for more such exciting episodes we'll be coming up with very, very soon. Until then, take care of yourself and bye-bye.